Welcome, everyone. So today I'd like to share some NLP techniques with you, which is Neuro-Linguistic programming. And this is the art of programming your mind for the most successful outcomes and being able to program situations and conversations for your best and most successful outcomes. I'm an NLP master practitioner, and I thought you would probably benefit from some of the techniques that I use. So the topic that's been coming up for me lately with the people in my life is just how to feel comfortable in new connections or in social situations where you may not be familiar with the other people around. And there are ways to make yourself and others feel much more comfortable in your energy through some very simple NLP techniques. So the first technique that I want to share with you today is about allowing the person that you're coming in contact with or people to set the frequency, to set the tone, right? And so when you come into contact with somebody, if they're sitting there all, kind of sad or down or whatever, they've got low energy, and you come pounding at them with some really high frequency energy, that is going to be very dissonant. It's not going to be a cohesive flow of energy. It's almost like a car wreck. Then alternately, if you have somebody there that's, really in a great energy and you come in with it's a horrible day, and, you bring in an energy of a low frequency, it's going to be dissonant. So what you want to do is examine whatever your situation may be or whoever you may be coming in contact with and allow them to set that frequency, find out what that is, and try to meet them at that level. The next technique that comes right along with that is once you've met them at that level of energetic frequency, you can bring it to a more comfortable level. You can bring it to that middle ground. So it's not real crazy high, hyperactive, and not so low that we're depressed and ready to jump off a bridge. But, somewhere in wherever you feel comfortable, you can control the conversation by slowly changing the tone and bringing it to the frequency that you desire. And you can do that simply just through conversation. Eye contact is a very important technique when it comes to social and interacting with other people, even on a business level. But eye contact, there's a fine line there where eye contact can become a little too personal and a little bit too invasive. And so when it comes to that, you really want to try and make eye contact when you make a major point, or when you are asking someone a question and you're anticipating an answer. And, in situations where you want to really place emphasis on something that you're saying. And when they're talking to you, you don't necessarily want to stare them down in their eyes. You want to make contact periodically. You want to listen to what they're saying. You might look down, you might look around and look them back in the eye when, in recognition of what they're saying. So we use eye contact in a way of communicating and recognizing and in that sense. And that is another way that we speak to each other without speaking words, right? So with the eye contact, just use it where you need to use it. Don't stare someone right in the eye the whole time and just bear down into their soul, because it becomes an invasion and it becomes overly personal and, in a sense, with people that you don't necessarily have connection with, or you're not necessarily comfortable with, or they may not be comfortable with you, especially if you're staring them in the eye the whole time. So, and I do want to make the point that with the eyes, animals are like that too. If you stare an animal in the eye, it's going to make them uncomfortable. And everybody that has a dog should know that. If you stare at them and you they're going to be like, what are you doing? Some of them might even be a little aggressive. So put that in your pocket. Remember that we do have that primal instinct within us. And so there's like this overly personal threat that might be translated if you stare too long into someone's beautiful eyes. The next technique that I'd like to share with you is all about self-consciousness and awareness. And so every single person in this world has a level of self-consciousness. Well, I would say most people. There are maybe some that stand outside of that may not have certain recognition for or self-awareness, right? But other than those folks, the majority of us are very, very self-conscious and very worried, am I going to say or do the wrong thing, that, this, that, and the other. And when we put ourselves in that energy, first of all, that is detectable by the other person. We are communicating on a much broader spectrum of energy that, we may not consciously speak of or be aware of, but we're picking it up from each other. And that's why sometimes you get around somebody and you're like, ooh, I just don't like that one. It's an energetic thing, right? It's also chemicals or frequencies as well. So when it comes to this consciousness, you really want to maintain an awareness of their consciousness and where they are in the conversation, which is kind of like what I was saying with regard to meeting somebody on their same energetic frequency. And this is also about maintaining that energetic frequency. But when you turn it into yourself and you start worrying about what you're saying or doing or whatever, that starts to reflect in your energy, in your frequency. And again, that can make somebody a little uncomfortable with you. So if you can take yourself outside of yourself and become interested in what the other person has to say, in what the other person is bringing forward, or their energy, or their, connection to you in some way, place that focus outside of yourself. And I think that you're going to find that it is so much more comfortable for everyone involved, right? And another good one is, once you're in this energy and you've got things flowing and it feels right, the long pauses of silence can become uncomfortable. And the easiest way to make someone comfortable in that energy is to ask the person questions about themselves, or questions that aren't necessarily overly personal. You don't want to bring up something that might potentially lead to an embarrassing moment in the conversation, right? Or bring up something that might make them sad or upset, or, something like that. But, keep your questions very impersonal in a sense. I think it's okay to ask somebody where they come from. Where did you grow up? What was it like there? Tell me about these things. These are questions that people are comfortable answering. They're questions that don't require a lot of thought. You're not putting someone on the spot. And they can talk about something that they're comfortable talking about, right? So when you give someone something comfortable to talk about, they're going to feel good, and they're going to take over the conversation, take the emphasis off of yourself. And it's placing it back on them and allowing them to create a space where they feel very comfortable. And there's a connection that's had when you share with someone and you have a communication with someone. There is a connection that's made, and it creates another level of, comfort with that person, right? The other part of that is, when you're in these social situations, sometimes you might be driven to talk more, I'll just talk, and everything's going to be fine. You've got to be careful not to over talk it, because that, of course, just draws negative energy and intention right back to you. So what you want to do is flow with the conversation. And if there are moments where there's no conversation, flow with that. Be comfortable with that. Relax. Think about the other people involved in the conversation, and just be willing to kind of go with the flow. Know when it's time to relax and enjoy, and know when it's time to say something, or to talk, or to contribute your opinion. The last thing that I wanted to mention, which is a really big one, I feel like, is making physical contact with the people that you are engaging with, particularly if you want to make a lasting connection. And that kind of brings the handshake back up to the table. And handshake has been getting a lot of guff, and I don't like it very much either. Okay, I'll be honest. We use our hands for everything, and let's share our germs. I don't necessarily like that. And it's not because of present circumstances. It's just always been that way. Plus, shaking someone's hand is a very personal interaction. We use our hands for everything, like I said. So, some people might shake hands, some people might fist bump, touch, someone on the shoulder. Just, very, very mild, interaction can create a nice connection. And you guys don't get crazy with it, and you can't go out there and just touch people. But, in conversation where it's appropriate, you can make a little bit of physical contact, even if it's touching somebody's arm or, whatever, just keep it on the up and up, y'all. And you'll find that that is a very effective way of engaging someone, getting them interested in what you're saying, and also in creating that connection, like I said. So I hope this video helped you guys in some way. It was my absolute pleasure, and I wish you all the very best.